Last night was meant to be a simple dinner with my husband, Marco, and his old college buddies, Sam and Lisa. We went to this trendy new spot downtown that Marco had been raving about for weeks. The place was buzzing, filled with people hyped up over some local sports victory or something. I didn't care enough to ask. The vibe was electric, drinks were everywhere, and honestly, I was enjoying myself at first, even though I always feel a bit like an outsider with his friends. We were chatting, tossing around random topics, nothing serious. I stayed quiet, mostly soaking in their nostalgic stories about their college days. Since I didn't go to school with them, these conversations always leave me feeling like I'm on the outside looking in. But whatever, I've gotten used to it. Sam asked how Marco and I got together, a harmless question, no big deal. But the second he asked, I saw Marco's whole vibe shift. His face turned smug, almost irritated. I was about to respond when Marco cut me off. She was practically pleading for me to go out with her, he said with this condescending smirk. I froze, my wine glass halfway to my lips. The table went silent for a moment. I thought maybe he was kidding, but then he kept going. Check her out, he said, waving at me like I was some item on display. Needy, plain, and lucky I was bored enough to give her a chance. Sam and Lisa let out awkward chuckles, the kind people do when they're not sure how to handle something cruel. I didn't laugh. I couldn't even speak. My cheeks burned, and I gripped my glass so hard I thought it might shatter. But Marco wasn't done. The waiter had just dropped off our appetizers, and everyone was grabbing food, probably trying to gloss over the tension. Not Marco, though. Truth is, he went on, sipping his bourbon, I'm only with her because I don't have time to break in someone better. Sam glanced at him and muttered, Whoa, man, in a tone that wasn't exactly calling him out, but at least showed he knew it was messed up. Lisa suddenly became obsessed with her phone, scrolling like it was her job. Nobody told him to stop. I sat there, humiliated, trying to wrap my head around what was happening. Was this really my husband saying this? The same guy who, just last week, was telling me he couldn't live without me. Marco, what the hell? I finally choked out. He gave me this look I'd never seen before, like I was something nasty stuck to his shoe. Then he turned to Sam and Lisa. See? So dramatic. Can't handle a little humor. He rolled his eyes. This is what I put up with every... Damn. Sam coughed and said, Maybe we should talk about something else. But Marco was on a roll. He'd already downed 3 bourbons before the food arrived, and having an audience seemed to egg him on. Get this, he said. When we met, she acted all strong and independent. Then we got married, and bam, clingy, insecure, always nagging about where I'm at, who I'm messaging. I stared at him, completely floored. Marco, stop it, I said. What? I'm just being real. They're my friends. They should know the real you. He turned back to them. She thinks I don't notice her sneaking looks at my phone when I'm in the shower. I've never touched his phone, not once. The accusation made my stomach turn. Lisa finally spoke up. How about we get another round? Her attempt to change the vibe fell flat as Marco brushed her off. Nah, I'm just getting started, he pressed on. Want to know why I really married her? Nobody responded. Nobody stopped him. He leaned forward, staring right at me. Let's be honest. Nobody else wants her. I'm doing her a favor. Something in me broke. 5 years of marriage. All the moments I thought we shared. All the love I believed we had. It all crumbled right there. I stood up without a word. Marco looked at me with this smug grin, like he was waiting to see what the needy plain woman would do. I grabbed my full glass of soda, held it over his head for a second, long enough for him to realize I wasn't bluffing, and then dumped it all over him. It soaked his hair, dripped down his face, and ruined his shirt. He sat there, stunned, looking pathetic. The shock on his face almost made up for the sting of his words. Almost. I grabbed my bag, turned, and walked out without looking back. I heard Sam mutter, Holy crap, as I left. First update. So yeah, I'm back. This is long and chaotic, and I'm not apologizing. Some of you might think I'm crazy for even putting this out there, but honestly, I don't care anymore. I need to let this out, and frankly, some of you might be the only ones who get it. I left off last night after Marco basically turned me into his personal punching bag in front of Sam and Lisa at that new downtown restaurant, like I was the butt of his comedy routine. I still can't believe I poured my drink on him. I put my phone down. It hit me. If I didn't do something, this was going to turn into a crazy wife story, and people would buy it because Marco's good at twisting things. So, I decided to take control. I posted on my Instagram story a photo of my empty wine glass with the caption, Sometimes you're the only one not drinking the drama. Petty? Sure. But I needed to do something. Within 10 minutes, I had DMS from 3 of Marco's friends and 1 from his cousin, all like, What's going on? You okay? I didn't reply, but screenshotted everything. Evidence, baby. Around 1 p.m., my dad came back. He walked into the kitchen, didn't look at me, just started making a sandwich like nothing happened. My mom asked where he'd been, and he just shrugged, out. I didn't press. 5 minutes later, there's a knock at the door. Guess who? Marco. looking like a wreck. Hair still sticky from the soda, eyes wild, still in yesterday's shirt. He didn't even call or text, just showed up at my parents' place. My dad stood up so fast the chair screeched. My mom put her hand on my arm and whispered, "Stay put." Marco walked in, playing the wounded victim, like he was the one who needed sympathy. He started ranting, loud, demanding I apologize in front of my parents. He kept saying I'd embarrassed him, made him look bad, crossed a line. My mom told him to quiet down, but he kept going, flailing his arms, then stepping way too close to me. My dad moved between us, physically blocking him, and told him to back off. Marco tried to push past like he had every right to get in my face in my parents' kitchen. My dad pushed him back, not hard, but enough to make a point. Marco lost it, screaming, cursing at my dad, saying he had no business interfering. My mom was yelling too, telling him to get out, and I was just sitting there, shaking, wondering if I should throw my coffee at him or my phone or something. Marco tried to dodge around my dad, but my dad blocked him again. Then Marco grabbed my dad's arm like he was going to shove him aside. My dad pushed him back harder, and Marco stumbled into the counter. He looked at me like I was supposed to defend him, and I just stared back. Finally, he stormed out. My dad stood there, breathing heavily, and my mom started crying, which made me want to scream. I went upstairs, locked myself in the guest room, and ignored my phone, which was blowing up. Missed calls from Marco, texts from Sam. "What happened? This is nuts." Even Lisa texted, "Did he really show up at your parents' place?" News travels fast. I ignored everyone. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing my parents argue downstairs, trying to figure out what to do next. I thought about just bolting, driving somewhere with no phone, no social media, just vanishing for a bit. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Why should I be the one to disappear? I didn't do anything wrong. Marco's the one who blew up his own life, not me. If he thinks he can spin this into some unstable wife attacks poor husband story, he's got another thing coming. So, here's what I did. I pulled up every group chat, every old text thread with his friends, his cousins, even his mom, who's never liked me, but I didn't care. I wrote one message, no drama, just the truth. What Marco said at dinner, word for word, how he acted, how he showed up at my parents and tried to fight my dad. I added, "If you want to know why I left, ask Marco what he said about me last night." I sent it to everyone and blocked him again. I know this is just the beginning. He's going to hate me for this, but good. I want him to feel what it's like to have people question him, to have to explain himself, to lose his grip on the story. He can't just bulldoze everyone and walk away unscathed. If he wants to play the villain, fine. I'll be the villain's worst nightmare. Let's see how that plays out. So yeah, if you think this is done, you're wrong. I'm just getting started. Second update. Here I am again, and no, I'm not shocked I'm back with another update, because if there's one thing about Marco, it's that he doesn't know when to stop. The guy will beat a dead horse until it's dust. I thought things couldn't get messier after the last round, but I underestimated how much Marco loves being the center of every drama. I should have seen it coming, but I was hoping for a magic button to mute my life for a few days. Wishful thinking. After the showdown at my parents' place, I basically camped out in their guest room, living in pajamas for a solid 36 hours, surviving on coffee, leftover takeout, and my mom's relentless attempts to shove toast in my face every half hour. Every time my phone buzzed, I braced for the next catastrophe. I kept thinking Marco would take the hint and back off. Nope. He started with guilt trip texts, then angry ones. Then he started calling my mom, who, bless her, put him on speaker and left the phone on the counter so I could hear him rant about how I was destroying his life and turning the family against him. He even tried FaceTiming my dad. My dad answered, held the phone out, and let Marco yell at the ceiling fan. That got old quick. I tried to lay low and just survive, but that's not me. After a day and a half of hiding, I got antsy. I couldn't just sit there waiting for Marco's next move, so I decided to go back to our apartment and grab my stuff. I texted him first. No reply. Called, straight to voicemail. Figured he was either ignoring me or had blocked me, so whatever. I took my keys and my dad's car, because no way was I lugging boxes on a bus like some tragic rom-com character, and drove over. The drive was eerily quiet, like the world was holding its breath. I kept imagining Marco trashing the place or waiting to jump me. But when I got there, it was just normal. Cars lined the street, neighbors walking dogs, some kid bouncing a basketball. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment reeked of stale air and cheap cologne. Marco wasn't there. His sneakers were gone from the door, so was his coat. That stupid mug was still on the counter, but there was a sticky note on it. A little yellow square stuck to the handle. It just said, "You owe me." No name. Like, who else would it be from? I almost laughed. Then I noticed he'd taken the TV and the gaming console and left a pile of dirty clothes on the living room floor. Real classy. I started packing my stuff, clothes, charger, the plant I've kept alive for 3 years against all odds. I grabbed my laptop and a stack of mail, then paused in the hallway to look at our wedding photo, the one Marco hated because he thought it made him look short. I left it face down on the shelf. I probably should have felt something. Sadness, maybe. But I was just drained. I filled 2 bags and was halfway out when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Of course, it was Marco. He saw me and instantly got all puffed up, face red, voice loud, like he'd been practicing this confrontation all morning. He started yelling that I was stealing, that everything in the apartment was half his, that I was acting insane. He blocked the doorway, refusing to let me pass. I told him to move, and he just stood there, arms crossed, glaring. I could smell bourbon on his breath, and it wasn't even noon. He kept ranting, saying I was embarrassing us both, making things worse for no reason, that if I left now, he'd tell everyone I'd abandoned him and taken his stuff. I just stared, debating whether to throw my bag at his head or scream. He wouldn't budge, so I pushed past him, hard enough to make him stumble. He grabbed my arm, trying to pull me back. I yanked free and said if he touched me again, I'd call his mom. Yeah, it sounds childish, but his mom is scarier than any cop, and we both know it. He let go, muttering, and stormed back into the apartment, slamming the door. I got in the car and sat there, hands shaking, before I could even start it. When I got back to my parents' place, my mom was outside, hosing off the patio, acting like the world was fine. I dumped my bags in the hall and tried not to cry. My dad was inside, watching some old game show rerun. He looked up, nodded, and went back to his crossword. That was his way of saying, "Glad you're back, but I'm staying out of it unless I have to." I went upstairs, plugged in my phone, and tried to breathe. That night, Sam called. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got me. He sounded nervous, like he thought I'd yell at him. He said, "Just checking in. You okay?" Marco's saying some crazy stuff. I asked what kind, and he paused, then said Marco was telling people I was unhinged, that I attacked him at the apartment, that I tried to steal the TV. I laughed out loud, which I think threw Sam off. I told him Lisa didn't buy it either, but some of Marco's friends were starting to take sides. Here's the thing. Marco needs an audience. He can't stand not being the center of attention. If someone else is getting sympathy, he'll burn everything down to steal it back. I think part of why he flipped out at dinner was because I was quiet, not playing along with his jokes, not giving him the adoring wife act in front of his friends. He loves being the witty guy, the one who tells it like it is, but only if everyone laughs. When they don't, he gets nasty. I used to think it was insecurity, but now I think he just thrives on control. That's why he's spinning this so hard now. He hates that he's not calling the shots anymore. The next few days were a mess. I stayed at my parents', checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for the next bomb to drop. Marco went wild on social media, posting vague stories about betrayal and being stabbed in the back. He even posted a picture of his ruined shirt with some dramatic caption about abuse in relationships. I ignored it. Lisa kept texting, half gossiping, half fishing for more details. Sam sent memes like he was trying to lighten things up. My mom told me to block everyone, but I didn't. I wanted to see what Marco would do next. Then, just when I thought things might calm down, Marco escalated. Saturday afternoon, I got a call from his mom. She never calls unless it's a holiday, so I knew it was trouble. She didn't even say hi, just started yelling, accusing me of wrecking the family, saying Marco was a mess, demanding to know what I'd done to him. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't hear it. She told me to come home and fix it. I hung up on her. A few hours later, Marco showed up at my parents' house again. This time, he didn't knock, just walked in like he owned the place. My dad was in the kitchen, and Marco went right for him, yelling that he needed to talk to his wife. My dad told him to leave, and Marco started pushing. My mom started screaming, and I ran downstairs. Marco was in my dad's face, red as a beet, shouting. My dad pushed him back, Marco pushed again, and then my dad hit him in the chest. Not hard, but enough to make a point. Marco backed off, breathing hard, and started yelling at me to come home and fix this, saying if I didn't, he'd make sure everyone knew what kind of person I was. My mom told him to get out, and when he wouldn't, she pulled out her phone and threatened to call the police. That got his attention. He stormed out. After that, things got weirder. Marco started messaging my friends, people I haven't talked to in years, even my cousin who lives across the country. He told them I was unstable, that I'd lost it, that I was ruining his life. Some believed him, some didn't. My group chats exploded. My aunt texted my mom asking if I was all right, which is hilarious since she hasn't talked to me since Christmas 2 years ago. I ignored it all. I spent a lot of time in the backyard, scrolling my phone, watching the neighbor's dog dig up their lawn. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. I started thinking, if Marco wanted a fight, I'd give him one. I wasn't going to let him destroy my reputation, so I decided to hit back. I went to the apartment again, this time with my dad for backup, and packed up everything that was mine. The nice towels, the good pillows, my favorite mugs, even the new kettle. I left him with the stained sheets and the mismatched plates he loved. I boxed up his stuff, every hoodie, every sock, every dumb baseball cap, and dropped it at his mom's house. I rang the bell, left the boxes on the porch, and drove off before she could answer. Marco blew up my phone again. Calls, texts, even a voicemail, calling me petty, saying I was ruining everything, accusing me of turning his family against him. I didn't respond. He started texting from a random number, probably a burner, but I caught on and blocked it. He tried messaging me on every app, Snapchat, Messenger, even LinkedIn. I blocked him everywhere. The next week was a haze. I started looking for a new place, something small, a fresh start. My parents hovered, giving advice I didn't want and food I didn't need. My mom kept pushing therapy. My dad just grunted and flipped the channel. Friends stopped by, bringing food, venting their own drama, making awkward jokes about ditching Marco. I appreciated it, sort of, but mostly I wanted to be alone. Then, one night, Lisa DM'd me. She said Marco was telling everyone I'd stolen from him, trashed the apartment, gone off the deep end. She said Sam didn't believe him, but some people were starting to wonder. I sent her a thumbs-up emoji. I didn't have the energy to fight every rumor. But then Lisa said something that stopped me. She said Marco was planning something, acting weirder than usual, more paranoid, saying he'd make sure everyone knows the truth. I asked what she meant, but she just said she was staying out of it. That's when I decided to end this. If Marco wanted to play dirty, I'd finish it. I pulled up every text, every DM, every group chat where he'd said something cruel about me, his family, his friends. I screenshotted it all. Then I wrote a message and sent it to everyone, his friends, his cousins, even his mom. I laid out everything. What he said at dinner, how he acted with my dad, what he texted me. No embellishment, just the truth. I said if anyone wanted proof, I had receipts. The fallout was instant. Marco's friends started messaging me, some apologizing, some asking questions, some just lurking. His mom called my mom, yelling about family disgrace. Sam sent a string of texts. I'm so sorry, I didn't know it was this bad. Lisa said she was done with the whole thing. Even my cousin texted, asking if I was okay and if I needed anything. I turned off my phone and went for a walk. When I got back, my dad was in the kitchen, arms crossed, looking like he wanted to punch a wall. He asked if I was done with this, and I shrugged. My mom hugged me, said she was proud, which almost made me cry. I went upstairs, sat on the bed, and stared at the wall. That's where I'm at now. I don't know what Marco's next move is, but I'm ready. I'm not hiding, I'm not running, and I'm not backing down. If he wants a fight, he's got one, and this time, I'm not holding back. I don't know how this ends, but if he wants to keep making it messy, he's about to learn what messy really means. Let's see what he does next. Final update. Alright, here's the deal. If you've been following the absolute chaos of my life lately, you know I wasn't about to let Marco torch everything and walk away like nothing happened. This is the final update, mostly because I finally feel like I can breathe without constantly bracing for the next disaster. But you want the gritty details, so here's what went down after I basically set my old life on fire and watched it burn. After I sent that group message with all the receipts, screenshots, his own words, even the part where he tried to paint my dad as the bad guy, which, let's be real, anyone who knows my dad knows he's the chillest guy unless you mess with his kid. The fallout was immediate. It was like I'd dropped a grenade in every group chat, family thread, even Facebook Messenger, which I haven't touched since, 2017, but apparently that's where all the aunts and uncles hang out now. The reactions were wild. Some people acted like it wasn't happening, some tried to play both sides, and a few, maybe 3 or 4, messaged me privately, like, "Whoa, I had no idea." Sam sent a bunch of I don't know what to say, but I believe you texts, which was more than I expected. Lisa disappeared for a bit, then popped up with a half-hearted hope you're okay message. Whatever. But Marco? Oh, Marco. If you'd told me he'd just get angrier, I'd have believed you, but I didn't expect how hard he doubled down. He started texting from every number he could find. I swear he bought 3 burner phones just to dodge my blocks. He sent emails, DMs from old accounts, even tried to get my cousin to pass me a handwritten note at my parents' house. My cousin read it out loud at dinner, just to make a point, then tossed it in the trash. It wasn't an apology, just more of the same, blaming me, my parents, the world for turning against him. If you're wondering why Marco's like this, I've spent too long trying to figure it out. It's not just about me, it's about control. He can't stand looking weak, can't handle not having the last word, and he's always been obsessed with what people think. Instead of dealing with his own issues, he lashes out, making everyone else feel small. I wish I'd seen it clearly before, but you don't really know someone until you stop playing the part they expect. The next few days were a whirlwind of drama. My parents' house turned into a circus, people stopping by, calling, texting, all wanting the real story. My mom was half proud, half horrified. My dad just told everyone to butt out. I crashed in the guest room, eating leftover pizza and scrolling Instagram stories like it was my job, trying to tune out the chaos. It felt oddly normal and completely surreal at the same time. One minute, someone's sending me a meme about messy breakups. The next, Marco's mom is calling, demanding I fix things before it's too late. I started leaving my phone in the kitchen just to get a moment's peace. I thought maybe Marco would burn out, but then he started showing up everywhere. It was almost funny, except it wasn't. He'd park outside my parents' house, texting me to come talk. Once he banged on the door so hard I thought it'd break. My dad answered, just stood there, arms crossed, blocking the way. Marco tried to push past, but my dad didn't move. They had this tense standoff, just staring. My mom started yelling from the kitchen, and I watched from the stairs, gripping the banister like it was keeping me upright. Marco finally left, tires screeching like some cheesy movie villain. Then, because of course he started roping other people in. First, his mom. She called my mom daily, sometimes twice. My mom eventually silenced her number and left the phone in a drawer. Then Marco started messaging old friends, trying to get them to talk to me, like they could convince me to be reasonable. One of his buddies showed up at my parents' door nervous, holding a bag of donuts like it was a peace offering. He stood there, fidgeting, and finally said, "He's not doing great, you know. Maybe just talk to him one last time." I stared at him and said, "He can talk to my lawyer." The guy left the donuts and practically sprinted to his car. The divorce stuff got real then. I called a lawyer my mom knew, not some high-end attorney, just a regular person who's done this before. It wasn't dramatic like on TV, just paperwork, emails, meetings, more paperwork. Marco fought every step, insisting we settle privately, then posting another vague social media story about betrayal and loyalty. My mom started saving screenshots just in case. My dad stayed out of it, except when Marco showed up at the apartment again. My dad was ready, blocking the door, telling him to leave. When Marco tried to push past, my dad pushed back, harder. Marco yelled, tried to get in my face, but my dad just stared him down. Eventually, Marco left, shouting about lawyers and how the truth will come out. It was exhausting. Meanwhile, I was trying to rebuild. I found a small apartment across town. I spent a week cleaning, painting, buying random stuff I never thought I'd need. My mom brought over old dishes. My dad showed up with a toolbox and fixed a sticky door. It was mundane, boring, exactly what I needed. I started sleeping better, eating real food, even laughing at silly TikToks again. But every time my phone buzzed, I got this jolt of anxiety, like, what now? It all came to a head one Saturday. My cousin was getting married, and because the universe loves a good joke, both Marco and I were invited. I almost skipped it, but my mom said I shouldn't let him win by hiding. So I went, wearing a dress I hadn't touched since before the pandemic, hair and makeup on point. I showed up with my parents, feeling awkward as hell, and spotted Marco across the room with his mom both glaring. I ignored them, focused on catching up with my cousins, eating too many appetizers, and steering clear of the bar. The ceremony was fine, but the reception was where it went down. Marco kept circling, trying to corner me. He caught me near the bathrooms, launching into his usual spiel, how I was ruining his life, making a scene, how everyone was talking. I told him to back off. He grabbed my arm. I pulled away and said if he touched me again, I'd scream loud enough for the whole place to hear. He backed off, muttering. My mom saw it and came over, looping her arm through mine, guiding me back to our table. She didn't say anything, but I could tell she was furious. Halfway through dinner, Marco lost it. He started arguing with his mom, then started yelling at me across the room. People stared, the music stopped, someone gasped. My dad stood up, walked over, and planted himself between us, just like at the house. Marco tried to push past, screaming about how I'd humiliated him, but my dad didn't move. He told Marco to leave before he made it worse. The room was silent, everyone watching like it was a reality show. Marco's mom grabbed his arm, trying to drag him away, but he shook her off, still yelling. Venue staff stepped in, quietly escorting him out. His mom followed, shooting me a venomous glare. I sat down, hands shaking but trying to act calm. My cousin, the bride, came over, hugged me, and whispered, "You're better off." The night went on, people awkwardly returning to dancing and celebrating. I stayed until the cake was cut, then left with my parents. On the drive home, we were mostly quiet. My dad reached over, squeezed my hand, and that was enough. The next morning, my phone was flooded with messages. Friends, cousins, even people I hadn't talked to in years, checking in, offering support. Some of Marco's friends apologized, saying they didn't know how bad it was. Lisa texted, saying she'd cut contact with Marco after his wedding meltdown. Sam sent a long message, admitting he should have called Marco out sooner. I didn't reply to most of them. I was done explaining. Marco tried one last time, sending a rambling email from a new account, half apologizing, half blaming me, saying he'd messed up, but I'd pushed him to it. I didn't respond, just forwarded it to my lawyer and blocked the address. The divorce kept moving, slow but steady. Marco fought over every detail, furniture, the car, even the kettle. But my lawyer dealt with it. I didn't care about dishes or pillows anymore. I settled into my new apartment. It's small, but it's mine. I hung some art, got a new rug, and brought over my plant, which miraculously survived. My parents stopped by every few days, my mom with food, my dad with tools to fix things I didn't know were broken. I started evening walks to clear my head, deleted most of my social media apps, tired of the noise. If Marco was still posting, I didn't know, and I didn't care. A month later, I heard through the grapevine that Marco had moved in with his mom. Apparently, he lost his job, too many personal issues tanking his performance. His friends started drifting away, fed up with his drama. Even his mom was reportedly over it, though she'd never admit it. I didn't feel bad, but I didn't feel good either. I was just done. I started therapy, not because my mom kept pushing, but because I wanted to understand how I missed the red flags for so long. It's slow, sometimes frustrating, but it's helping. I'm not trying to fix everything at once, just figuring out who I am without Marco's voice in my head telling me I'm not enough. Looking back, dumping that soda on him was the spark. It wasn't just about getting even. It was me saying I wasn't invisible, that I wouldn't let him rewrite my story. I'm not a hero, and I don't have it all together. I'm still a mess sometimes, but I'm my mess now, not his. That's it. No more updates. I'm closing this chapter, locking the door, and tossing the key. Marco can scream into the void, but I'm not listening. I've got my own life to live, and for the first time in forever, I'm actually kind of excited to see where it takes me.